The marble lobby of the bank was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. The laughter of the bank executives echoed, a sound filled with mockery and amusement. They had just denied Vanessa Mitchell's claim of ownership, dismissing her casually. "This bank isn't for sale to someone like you," the manager sneered, looking at her in running clothes and a baseball cap with clear disdain. Vanessa stood tall, composed and calm despite the ridicule. What they didn't know, and what they were about to find out, was that her husband, Richard Mitchell, had already bought the bank. As soon as Richard walked through those doors, their laughter would quickly turn to shock and disbelief. The day had begun just like any other. The morning sun cast long shadows over the streets of Oakage as Vanessa jogged down her usual route. At 55, she was in better shape than many half her age. Her silver blonde hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail beneath her navy cap, and the weight of her water bottle bounced against her hip. For Vanessa, this daily run had been her ritual, her time to reflect, and her sanctuary for years. Before meeting Richard, she was just the nice Mitchell woman to the neighbors. They knew her as the one who volunteered at the library and remembered everyone's birthdays. But life had changed dramatically since then. Her breathing steady and pace even, Vanessa jogged past Miller Park as usual. The park was peaceful, and the morning air was crisp. But today, something would happen that would throw everything off course. Vanessa's eyes caught a bright yellow notice on the community bulletin board. She pulled the paper closer to examine it, her heart sinking as she read the words, "Oakage Community Bank Closure Notice." The bank would be closing in 30 days, and it had already been purchased by National Financial Group, a corporate giant. The news hit her hard. The closure would affect not just her, but the entire town. She thought of Mrs. Henderson, the elderly woman who walked to the bank every Friday to deposit her small pension check, and of the loan officer who had helped so many local businesses thrive. This wasn't just a bank to Oakage. It was the financial heartbeat of the community. Vanessa stood in the park, her morning run forgotten, as she dialed Richard's number. She spoke quickly, relaying the details and discussing a potential solution. Richard was busy in meetings all day, but Vanessa insisted it was urgent. "Remember what we talked about last month?" she reminded him. "I'm going to head there now and see what's going on. You don't need to change your schedule. I'll handle the initial conversation." She hung up, checking her watch. The bank would be opening in 20 minutes, and Vanessa, dressed in her running clothes, jogged over there, determined to address the issue. As she approached the bank, memories of her own struggles surfaced. Years ago, before meeting Richard, she had fought for her bookstore. She remembered the skeptical loan officers who doubted her business, the financial advisors who spoke to her condescendingly, and the many times she was dismissed because she didn't fit someone's narrow idea of success. But those days were behind her. Despite their newfound wealth, Vanessa never let go of who she was. She still drove her old sedan, still shopped at the local farmer's market, and still went for her morning runs. It wasn't an act. It was part of who she was, and it always would be. Arriving at the bank, she noticed the staff setting up for the day. Men and women in suits moved efficiently, preparing the teller stations and paperwork. Vanessa straightened her shoulders, aware of the skeptical looks she was sure to get. She was there to discuss something much more important than appearances, and she wasn't going to let anyone's judgment derail her. The bank manager unlocked the door, looking her up and down, barely disguising her disapproval. Vanessa took a deep breath and walked in, the soft conversations of the employees dying down as they took note of her casual attire. "Can I help you?" a young receptionist asked with an air of disbelief. "I'd like to speak with the manager regarding the closure notice." Vanessa said, her voice confident despite being surrounded by well-dressed staff. The receptionist eyed her up and down, clearly skeptical. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but this is urgent," Vanessa replied, keeping her tone steady. The receptionist made a call, speaking quietly into the phone before gesturing toward the waiting area. "Miss Kensington will be with you shortly." Vanessa nodded, taking a seat. She was clearly out of place in her running clothes, surrounded by suits and ties. But she didn't mind. She had a purpose, and nothing was going to stop her now. The murmurs of the employees around her continued. "Probably wants to complain about her mortgage," someone whispered. "Shouldn't she be at the gym instead?" Vanessa ignored them, her focus sharp as she took in the framed photographs lining the walls, pictures of oakage over the decades. This bank had been a cornerstone of the community, and she was determined to fight for it. After 15 minutes, a tall, blonde woman in an immaculate gray suit approached her. "I'm Patricia Kensington, the branch manager. I understand you have questions about our transition." Vanessa stood, following Patricia to her office, sensing the manager's intention to brush her off. But Vanessa had a different plan. She was there to discuss a purchase, a serious offer, and she wouldn't let anyone dismiss her. "I'm here to discuss a potential purchase," Vanessa said calmly, her voice clear. Patricia stopped mid-step, looking at her in disbelief. "Purchase, yes, of the bank." Her laugh came quickly, dismissive and condescending. "Ma'am, banks aren't like grocery stores. You can't just walk in and buy them. Especially not someone like you." Vanessa's voice remained steady as she finished for her. "Especially not someone like me, right?" Patricia froze, but her trained smile returned. "Acquisitions are handled at the corporate level through proper channels," she said. "Currently, National Financial Group has already begun the purchase process." Vanessa didn't back down. "I'm aware, but their offer isn't finalized. I believe there's still an opportunity for an alternative arrangement that would better serve this community." Patricia's smile tightened, and she tried to dismiss Vanessa, offering her to speak with a financial advisor. But Vanessa had something else in mind. "I don't need a financial advisor," she said firmly. "I want to make an offer for the entire Oakage Community Bank." A snicker came from somewhere behind them, and Patricia's patience was running out. "Banks aren't for sale to just anyone. You don't have the necessary funds. We're talking millions of dollars, and you seem out of place." Vanessa held her ground. "I believe I have $15 million for the bank. Is that enough?" Patricia's laughter was immediate. You think you can just buy a bank?" Outside, the employees were watching the scene unfold, some snickering under their breath. One whispered, "Maybe she drives an armored car," clearly mocking her. But Vanessa didn't flinch. She was used to this, used to being underestimated. But this time, she wasn't going to let them win. "I don't need your assumptions," Vanessa said, her voice calm but firm. "What I need is for you to take me seriously." Patricia's eyes darted nervously, and she gestured to her office. "Fine, let's discuss this privately." Inside Patricia's office, Vanessa's offer was met with condescension. "This isn't a fundraiser," Patricia said, dismissing the notion of a purchase. But Vanessa wasn't backing down. "I have the necessary funds." The executives around them began to laugh, mocking her appearance. "Check her running shoes. Maybe she has cash hidden in there." Patricia couldn't help herself and laughed too, but her amusement didn't last long. Vanessa didn't flinch. She knew exactly why she was there. "I'm here to save the community," Vanessa said simply, her voice calm despite the mounting pressure. "You're about to shut down this bank, and the people of Oakage are the ones who'll suffer." Patricia's smile faltered, but she wasn't about to back down. "You can't just come in here and demand a purchase." I'm not just demanding, Vanessa replied. I'm offering a solution that benefits everyone. But as the conversation went on, the moment of realization came when Richard Mitchell walked through the doors of the bank. 11:44 p.m., April 21st, 2025. Ali Absham, Vanessa, and Richard stood at the threshold of the bank, the murmurs of the staff behind them growing fainter as they left the building. As the doors closed, Richard's voice cut through the tense silence. I never expected you to handle it like that. Vanessa smiled, a small but knowing smile. Neither did I, she admitted. But sometimes you have to make them see the truth. Richard raised an eyebrow. You've been fighting for this community for as long as I've known you. I didn't think the bank would be the next battle. Vanessa's expression softened as they stepped into their car. It's more than just a building, Richard. You've seen it. This place, this bank, is a part of the lifeblood of Oakage. People rely on it. Mrs. Henderson, Sam Torres, so many others. They've trusted this institution for years. And now some corporate giant is coming in, swooping down to take it away, without a second thought for the people it serves. Richard started the car, the engine humming to life. So what's next? We buy the bank? Vanessa leaned back in her seat, glancing out the window as they passed the familiar streets of Oakage. I think so, but it's not just about buying it, Richard. It's about protecting the soul of this place. I've seen enough of these small towns lose their essence. It's about keeping Oakage. The silence between them stretched for a few moments before Richard spoke again, his tone thoughtful. I'm proud of you, you know. You didn't back down today. You stood your ground. I didn't back down because I knew this wasn't just about me. It's about something bigger. The community depends on this bank. They trust it, and they should be heard. She paused. And the way they treated me, that wasn't just about clothes, Richard. It was about how they viewed people who don't fit their mold. It's wrong, and it needs to be addressed. Richard nodded, his grip tightening slightly on the steering wheel. I get it. You've been through a lot to get where you are. No one should ever make you feel small, least of all because of how you look. They reached their home, and as Richard turned off the engine, he looked at Vanessa. What do we do now? Vanessa smiled softly, her eyes meeting his. Now we wait. We make sure that they know we're serious. And when the time comes, we show them what we're capable of. But first, I'm going to take a shower. This whole day has been exhausting. Richard chuckled. You've earned it, love. You've earned it. Later that afternoon, Richard made a series of calls to his lawyers and financial advisors. Vanessa sat quietly by his side, still absorbing everything that had happened that morning. She had been underestimated, dismissed, and yet here she was, with the power to change the course of Oakage's future. As the sun began to set, Richard came into the living room, his expression serious. They're not taking us seriously, Vanessa, but we can't back down. If we want to save this community, we need to get ahead of this. Vanessa stood up, determination flooding her veins. Then let's do it. Let's show them who we are. Let's show them how much this community matters. Richard nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. I love it when you're like this. Let's get to work. The next day, Vanessa and Richard went to the corporate offices of National Financial Group. As they entered the building, the atmosphere was starkly different from Oakage. Cold marble floors, tall glass windows, and employees who barely glanced up as they passed by. The energy here felt distant, impersonal. At the front desk, they were greeted by a woman in her late 20s. Her cold gaze swept over them before she spoke. How can I help you today? Vanessa smiled, her voice steady. I'm Vanessa Mitchell. We're here to discuss the potential purchase of Oakage Community Bank. The receptionist looked up from her computer, surprise flickering in her eyes before quickly disappearing behind a professional mask. "One moment, please," she said, and disappeared into the back office. Richard leaned in and whispered to Vanessa, "This is it. The real game begins now." Vanessa gave him a reassuring smile, though her heart was pounding in her chest. The moment they'd both been preparing for had arrived. In a few minutes, they were escorted into a sleek, modern conference room where a group of executives sat around a polished oak table. At the head of the table was a man in his 50s, wearing a tailored suit and looking every bit the part of a corporate mogul. He rose as they entered, extending his hand with a practiced smile. "Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, it's a pleasure to meet you," he said, his voice smooth and calculating. Vanessa shook his hand firmly. "The pleasure's ours, Mr. Donovan. We're here to discuss Oakage Community Bank." Donovan gestured for them to sit, and as they did, he adjusted his glasses. "Of course I've heard about your interest, but I must admit I'm curious to know why you believe Oakage is worth saving." Vanessa exchanged a glance with Richard before speaking. "Because Oakage isn't just a branch. It's a part of the fabric of this town. People here trust that bank with their lives, their savings, their businesses, their futures. When you close this branch, you're not just closing a financial institution. You're breaking something that matters." Donovan raised an eyebrow. "That's very sentimental, Mrs. Mitchell. But in the world of banking, sentiment doesn't keep the lights on. It's all about profit margins and numbers. National Financial has already made an offer, and we're preparing to close the deal. It's a done deal." Vanessa leaned forward, her gaze never wavering. "I don't think it's done, Mr. Donovan. Not yet. I'm offering you $15 million to purchase Oakage Community Bank. We can offer this community what it deserves, a bank that understands its people, that prioritizes its customers, and that remains a part of the community." Richard added, "You're already considering a sale to a giant corporation that doesn't understand Oakage. They'll close branches, cut jobs, and reduce services. That's not what Oakage needs. You've been offered a chance to make a real difference." Donovan's expression shifted, the skepticism evident on his face. $15 million for a branch that National Financial has already committed to acquiring? What makes you think you have the necessary capital for such a deal? Vanessa met his gaze, her voice steady. "I have the funds, and I'm prepared to back it up. This is not just about money. This is about community, about making sure Oakage stays the way it is. It's about keeping the heart of this town alive." There was a long silence as Donovan processed her words. His gaze flicked to his colleagues, and the tension in the room grew. Finally he spoke. "We'll need to consider your offer, but understand this. Our decision is not based solely on your financial backing. It's about what's best for the future of this institution." Vanessa nodded, rising from her seat. "I understand, but just remember, it's not always about what's best for the bottom line. Sometimes it's about what's best for the people." As they left the corporate office, Vanessa and Richard shared a quiet moment in the elevator. The weight of the situation hung in the air, but Vanessa felt a renewed sense of purpose. "We've got this, Richard," she said quietly. "We just need them to understand that Oakage isn't just a number on a spreadsheet." Richard smiled, squeezing her hand. "I have no doubt."